Hello everyone, it's Jen from Old Tinker's Studio. In this DaVinci Resolve Fusion tutorial for beginners, you will learn how to make callout text in Fusion within DaVinci Resolve 16. The links to download DaVinci Resolve 16 and the video are in the description. I would recommend watching my Introduction to DaVinci Resolve Fusion tutorial before continuing with this tutorial. So let's get on with the tutorial. This tutorial will introduce you to working with text and motion graphics in DaVinci Resolve Fusion. We will be making a commonly used callout text in this tutorial. I've already checked the frame rate of the video, which is 2.8. So under the project settings, which is located under the file drop-down menu, I changed the timeline frame rate to 23.976, and I also changed the video format to HD 1080 23.976. I then import the media into the media pool. Then I drag the video onto the timeline. Under the Edit tab, I scrub to 4 seconds. And using B, I make a cut on the video. And using A, I then right-click on the right side of the cut and then cut that portion of the video. I'm doing this because I don't want a long video. 4 seconds will be long enough. And then make sure I'm on frame 1 of the video and open the Fusion tab. I need to add a tracker node, so I have a spot that will be tracked during the video play. With the media in node selected, I use Shift Spacebar and search for tracker. I then click on Add and add the node to the node tree. I then move the tracker in the second viewer using the small square in the upper left corner to place it on the bridge. Everything within the solid border is the actual tracker. I then click on the Track Forward option in the inspector. Under the Operations tab in the inspector, change the operation to Match Move. This needs to be done so everything I place in the node tree will use the same tracking data. Now I will start building the actual callout. I first drag a background node from the tools onto the work area. I will then change the color to white and view it in the first viewer. Using F2, I rename the node to Circle. I then drag out an ellipse from the tools onto the work area and connect the background node to the ellipse node. With the ellipse node selected, I change the width and the height. Then on frame 16, I change the width and the height to 0. And I add a keyframe. On frame 26, I change the width and the height back to the original size. I then drag out a second background node, and using F2, I rename it to Line, I then use Shift Spacebar and search for Mask Paint. And I add the node to the line node. With the Mask Paint node selected, I use the Polyline Stroke tool to make the line. This works similar to a pen tool in other programs like Photoshop. If I hold down Shift, that allows me to make straight lines. I will then view the line in the second viewer. I change the line color to white, and with the Mask Paint node selected, I open the brush controls and change the softness to its lowest setting. I also change the size of the Mask Paint node. I can control the animation of the line under the Stroke Controls section. I move to frame 27. I move the right on slider N to 0 and add a keyframe. I then move to frame 37 and move the slider N to 1. Now I drag out a text node and view it in the second viewer. In the inspector, I type out Brooklyn Bridge and then I'll change my font. I view the line in the first viewer. I then move the text to be above the line. I drag out a merge node. I then connect the line node to the background of the merge node, and the text node to the foreground of the merge node. I then view the merge node in the left viewer. With the text node selected, I can then move the text and scale it so it fits on top of the line. I drag a rectangle node onto the work area and then position it over the text. I connect the text node to the rectangle node, then change the rectangle's width and height in the inspector so it covers the text. With the text node selected, I open the Layout tab in the inspector. On frame 38, I move the text to the left so it disappears. And then I add a keyframe for the center option. On frame 48, I move the text to the right so it's visible. Then under the Settings tab, I apply a motion blur. Now I'm going to reverse the animations at the end of the video. On frame 56, I add a keyframe for the text. On frame 66, move the text to the left so it disappears. On frame 67, I select the Mask Paint node and add a keyframe for the Right On option. On frame 77, I change the Right On option to 0. Make sure the circle is viewed in the first viewer. On frame 78, I add a keyframe for the width and the height. And on frame 88, I change the width and height to 0. Now I can merge everything together. I drag another merge node onto the work area. I connect the circle node to the background of the second merge node. I then connect the first merge node to the foreground of the second merge node. I connect the second merge node to the foreground of the tracker. If you want to export the video, open up the Deliver tab. Here you can give the video a name. And choose where to save it. You can choose what file format and codec you want to use. And you have other options such as resolution and frame rate. When you have selected all the options, click on Add to Render Queue, and click Start Render. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.